This episode of Okay, But Did You Know comes with a content warning for discussions surrounding mental health as well as chronic illness. If these are topics that you don't wish to listen to, we completely understand, and we welcome you to join us back in the next episode.
Hi, friends. I'm Katie.
And I'm Lauren, and welcome to Okay, But Did You Know, a podcast where we talk about our favorite TV and media with a friend who's never seen it before.
This week, instead of talking about one of our specific shows, we are going to be discussing spoon theory. We'll cover topics such as what spoon theory is, various representation in media, and our own personal experiences. So, Lauren, do you want to explain what spoon theory is?
I can, and we'll provide links to like articles and videos where we get all of this. Because spoon theory, for those who do not know,
Mm-hmm.
if you've seen people post things like hashtag spoonies, it's what we call it. Spoon theory is the idea that everyone has a finite amount of energy, and the representation of this is from spoons. Basically, everyone has a number of spoons that they can use throughout the day. That that's your energy that you use to do things throughout your day. And for every person, the amount of spoons that you need to do certain tasks is going to be different. And then the reason why this is kind of the thing for chronic illness and stuff is that the idea is that not only do people with chronic illnesses start their day usually with less spoons than
Mm-hmm.
your average person, but it also takes more spoons to do the same number of tasks. So throughout the day, they may need to stop and rest to kind of rebuild that bank of energy, kind of almost kind of like like the life bar in Sims kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. You have to like take a nap so you can get some like energy back to go do something else. So like the idea is like, an average morning routine for someone who does not have any amount of chronic illness or chronic pain, like, they may start their day with 30 spoons and it takes half a spoon to get up out of bed, half a spoon to go brush your teeth, another half to take a shower. They may even find a shower energizing, so that may just replenish every spoon they use to
Mm-hmm.
get out of bed and do the rest of their morning routine. And then, so by the time like they've done everything they need to do for the day, say they started with 30, by the time they're out the door, maybe they're down by like 2. But then someone with chronic illness, like they may start their day, let's say, with half that amount of spoons. They may start their day already with 15, and it takes one spoon to get up out of bed, one spoon to go to brush your teeth. It takes 3 spoons to be in the shower for as long as takes to actually wash yourself. By the time you're up and out ready for the day, their energy is mostly depleted because it just, when you have chronic illness and you have chronic pain, it just takes more time and more energy
Mm-hmm.
to do things that people that don't have chronic illnesses or chronic issues, that it takes more out of the people
Yeah.
with chronic illnesses than those who don't. So that's the idea. Someone says like I'm low on spoons, basically it's like I'm low on energy. It's just
Must
I
replenish.
must replenish. And that's like why a lot of like the mental illness or mental, not mental illness, a lot of the chronic illness mentality with a lot of it is people will not do things. They won't go out, they won't go on trips, they will reserve their spoons for their necessary things, because sometimes unfortunately you just have to, sometimes you just have to reserve your spoons. Sometimes you have to like try and like end your day with any amount of spoons so you can have a better shot at an easier morning.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an unfortunate aspect of living with chronic illness and being in pain a lot of the time, is you have to sometimes not do the things you want to do so you can do the things you have to do.
And as spoonies, because we're both, I think we both consider ourselves of the spoonie community.
Oh yeah.
Um, Definitely so. There are days also because then you have to take in the aspect of like I have children to take care of, and I only wake up
Hmm.
with so many spoons a day, and that number changes.
Yeah.
I woke up today groggy and not the best. Got all my things done, but yeah, there weren't much spoons left once we got to here, which is odd because I have to say, like recording the podcast does rest me and energize me somehow.
Yeah, I would say
It's weird.
depending on I think what we had to watch during the week. I would say a lot of times, because you can almost hear if we were having like a not so great day at the start of recording of like the first, because we always record the Once Upon a Time episode
Mm-hmm.
first. A lot of times you can hear our energy get better throughout a Once Upon a Time episode.
Yep.
By the time like we're at the end of that, like we were both almost at like I would not fully replenish, but
No.
definitely I would say recording this is replenishing of
Yes.
the energy stores.
We both started tonight yawning and exhausted, and now I'm like, I feel awake and I am energized. I could still go lay down and go to bed,
Oh yeah.
but
But for reference, we are recording this the same time as we're recording our main series episodes. This is episode 3 of the night. I would say we're starting with the most energy we've started any of the episodes.
honestly, but We
But it's
wanted
because we enjoy
to
this.
very much so. It gives life. Like, you get to talk to your one of your best friends for a couple of hours out of the week.
Hmm.
We very much call this time, like, we know we're doing the podcast, but we call this time like, this is my time with this friend.
Hmm.
I schedule time to speak with this friend, which is perfectly
Yep.
fine. And I feel like that's one thing that's interesting as a spoonie is sometimes you really do have to go, I need to do this when I have spoons,
Hmm.
and having other people in the community, because our other friends, the friends that we mostly talk to online, are also spoonies, and it's very
Yep.
nice to be like, it's nice when we all do talk, especially video chats. Any of us at any time go, I'm low on spoons, I gotta go, and there is no, oh
Hmm.
my god, please don't go. It's, we love you, we'll see you when you're ready. And
Exactly.
I feel like that's why the community is so important.
I
um
think so. Yeah.
People have found so much understanding and more care being in this
Hmm.
community. Like, when I've spoken with other people like this who understand spoon theory and consider themselves a spoonie,
Hmm.
it's easier to talk. It's more understanding. Like, I can look at you and
Yeah.
tell you, like, I'm having a lot of issues today. I'm exhausted. I need to go do XYZ to get better, or
Hmm.
I need to record a different night because I'm dead on my feet right now. And it's not a,
Exactly.
oh God, why are you doing this to me again? Not what my brain tells me.
No.
It's the other. It's like, no, like, we'll do this when you are capable.
Yeah. And it's important, especially in friendships, to understand that because I have a friend, my best friend that I've known for 20 years,
Mhm.
that she's not like she not the same level as us. She does have some chronic
Yeah.
illness stuff with her thyroid, but it's not so much to like us where like it really does drain your
Yeah.
energy sometimes, like if you're having a bad day. But she understands from the mental perspective of just mentally you may not be there at all. Because
Mhm.
like I see that all the time with like friendships and stuff that like people say like a true friendship or true people in your life, like they should be available to you whenever you need them. Like
Yeah, no.
no, that's not how that works. And she and I have talked, and she said she and like we've gotten in the habit, and we do this very intentionally of
Mhm.
if we've got something we need to vent about or something we want to talk about or just something to work through. Usually, it's like, do you have the spoons for this? And if the answer is no, that's a perfectly acceptable answer.
Yeah. I do that a lot. I
And
mean, I do that with you, and I do that with other friends as well. I'll first
yeah,
text I send if I'm in a crisis, "Do you have spoons?" Instead of
exactly,
dumping.
exactly. And like with with Becca, a lot of times when it's happening is I either say yes or I'm like, I have the spoons to listen if you want to just send this out into the void, and I will give advice or feedback, whatever you want, afterwards. And that's also important. We just learned our own communication style, but we've also learned of asking, do you want commiseration or do you want solutions?
Oh, I like that.
That's important to ask a lot of times because when someone's venting, they may not want the solution to the problem. They just
Mhm.
may want someone to be like, "Yep, that sucks," or "That person's a bitch," or something like that.
Yep.
So it's always important, like when with anyone with different communication styles just to learn like okay it's okay to ask what type of feedback do you want right now, but it's
Like, when
also
I
important that she knows like she
yeah.
knows that I can say like I will give you the feedback you want, but like give me an hour and I'll be good.
I love just sending into, like, group chats and, like, our friend group or just to each other. I'd be like, "I need to scream into the void. You don't even
Hmm.
have to listen to this voice message if you don't want to. I just
Hmm.
need to scream into the void." That's
Yep,
self-care.
that is self-care.
Even if it's, like, just the chance that someone will hear it and maybe commiserate with you is great,
Hmm.
but if they
Yeah.
don't, I got it out of my system. That's all that matters right now.
Exactly.
But I know we wanted to talk, and when I so with us talking about this though, with mental chronic illness, I want to just very much focus on the mental illness aspect as well, because
Hmm.
spooning, that's included.
Yeah,
Because when
absolutely
you're
it is.
depressed and anxious, it is, like, for me, it is really hard to shower sometimes. I usually shower
It
every day,
is.
but if I get really depressed, a
Hmm.
shower sounds like the worst idea in the entire world. I always feel better after them, but
Oh yeah.
even trying to get up out of the bed, take off my clothes, get the water to the right temperature, do all the tasks I'm supposed to do inside the shower, and yes, that includes washing my legs, and doing all of the things, like, it takes so much energy. And when you are
Hmm.
depressed, that is the last thing you want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to throw the leg thing in there though, because finding out people don't wash their legs has me concerned.
What?
Yeah. You haven't seen those TikTok videos?
No, not those. I've seen other ones of like men that didn't realize like there are certain body parts that you're supposed to wash. I've seen that.
I'm sorry, what?
Like men
But
not realizing you have to actually like wash your butthole.
I'll ask him later. What? Yes, I'm legitimately,
That.
that'll be the first thing I ask my husband when I leave this room. Babe, do you wash your ass?
Yeah, it's important.
That'll be a fun way to be like, I'm done. Um Wow, okay. No, yeah, there's people out there that, like, they don't use a washcloth or anything like that for one, like, but you kinda need something to put the soap on. But yeah,
I use
there's
a loofah.
I'm a big on washcloths because they're
Mhm.
easily washable.
Yep.
Yeah, no, there's people that are like, "No, I just let the water run down my legs."
You have to put the soap there.
Yeah, there's some people that don't wash their legs.
I
Your
don't like that.
face is telling me
I don't
everything I need to
I
know.
I don't like that. Nope,
Yeah.
nope, nope, don't like that.
I'm like I need to scrub my whole body, like, get the thing back even down to my back, like, I
Mhm.
need my whole body to be cleansed. But
Yep.
that's why it's so much work. It takes so many spoons to take a
Exactly.
shower.
There are a lot of tasks involved, and honestly, sometimes I'll admit, the spoons are not there to shave my armpits.
Yep,
Sometimes it's just
same.
not there.
And look, if that's, like, the one thing I'm not doing, my body is washed, I've washed my hair, my face is washed. Alright, I've done enough.
To be fair, body hair is supposed to be there.
It really is. I'm covered in it. Like, my arms are covered in body, like, it's everywhere.
Mhm.
So we wanted to talk about, well, why representation of the spoonie community, mental illness, chronic illness, why it matters in
Yeah.
media. And it's very, of course, for us, it's obvious. We want to see ourselves in media.
Yeah.
I don't see many people in media with my own illness situations I deal with as much, and
Yeah.
not.
Same.
Yeah.
I did some digging. I found a Reddit thread that people were putting the few times they've seen because I have Crohn's.
I saw the same thread.
So I put that link in for you to put in the show notes. But I did find that people pointing out a few times that they'd seen it in media. I tried for Grey's Anatomy because that would have made sense for it being a medical
Yeah.
drama. It was never a main case. If any times it popped up, it was like a side character or some side thing happened. It wasn't the main case of the episode. The only time I ever saw it in the Shondaland universe there was an episode of Private Practice, the spinoff
Hmm.
with Addison. Yeah, there was a character that I think she was previously diagnosed with Munchausen's. They told her she was making up her
Oh,
symptoms, but it turned out she had Crohn's. That's probably the only time I've ever seen it as like the main case of a medical drama.
that's yeah.
Because
No,
it's not Crohn's is not a very flashy disease,
no.
which is honestly I'm okay with that. I think in not the Bob's episode that's going out before this one, but the one from 2 weeks ago, I think I do mention briefly the difference between IBS and IBD because Crohn's
Yeah.
is considered an IBD, which is inflammatory bowel disorder, versus IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. They're both. I'll just explain briefly again. They're both umbrella
Hmm.
terms. IBS is an umbrella term for kind of just broad intestinal irregularity is basically what I can say. It's a lot of times it's fixed with usually like one round of antibiotics, or the symptoms are alleviated very quickly with some
Hmm.
kind of like one-time intervention, versus
And,
IBD.
like, diet can kinda help
Diet can
with it.
help with that, maybe like drinking, like a lot of times the recommendation is drink less wine. But with IBD with IBD, I
Sorry.
it's
I
okay.
didn't mean to, like, you know why I'm
No, I
laughing.
know. But IBD is a broader term for a lot of different disorders, but predominantly Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, because those are specifically autoimmune conditions where the body
Mhm.
is physically attacking the digestive system, whichever section of it can affect the entire digestive system. Um, but like it's more like in my case, my immune system is attacking my intestines and causing deep tissue inflammation. It's not a one and done kind of thing with medication.
Mm-mm.
I've been on medications. I was diagnosed when I was 10. I'm now 28. So I've been on
You're a
medications.
lifelong spoonie.
I really am. Before I knew what it was, before I knew the term, I've been dealing with chronic illness my entire life. It's not fun.
Yeah, my history is similar but not.
Hmm.
I was diagnosed, like, not really I've had depression,
Yeah.
and anxiety most of my life.
Hmm.
Was misdiagnosed at 15,
Hmm.
being told I had anxiety, only to find out I actually had a heart defect.
Hmm.
That was supraventricular tachycardia.
Hmm.
That was a fun time, but
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
we could go down a nice long rabbit hole about doctors not trusting
Whoo.
women's pain.
Oh yeah,
Even
it's a
as
heavy history.
even as a 10-year-old. I had a doctor I had the pediatrician tell my mom that, I was just something I was eating was bothering my stomach. That was what was causing the pain. My weight loss was due to like growing up, and my mom was like, but she's not growing, she's just
She's
losing
getting
weight. Like
smaller.
my
Like,
my height was not like you can't blame weight, like my weight looking to be
Mhm.
redistributed on growth that isn't happening. So what's
Yeah.
going on here? Like I wasn't eating. There was a lot going on there. My pediatrician really was trying to tell her that I was fine.
Yeah, they did,
He was
my
wrong.
heart with the tachycardia, what would happen is because there's different types,
Hmm.
um, at rest, like, you've seen it happen in real time
Yeah.
during our friendship, my heart rate would jump up to over 240 beats per minute, which is debilitating, like,
Yeah.
I would have to lay on the floor, because I didn't know the vagal, movements at that time. There's
Hmm.
different things you can do to kinda shock it back to what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I didn't know those until, you know, less than a year ago.
Hmm.
I had a doctor just be like, yeah, after they did echoes, they had me wear a heart monitor. I had to do all these different things on tests of my heart, stress test, everything at 15 years old. They're like, she has anxiety. 15 years of misdiagnosis,
Hmm.
which is very common. I'm seeing in like the spoonie community.
Yeah.
Because as we talk about this, I'm leading up to possibly my own diagnosis with Crohn's because
Possibly.
it's very heavily in my family. Like my mom, my brother, my uncle,
Hmm.
all have had surgeries surrounding it, which is very scary.
Yeah.
Um, which I know is not one thing you ever want to think of
No.
having to deal with. It's not fun.
No. No, it's not.
Um, so it's which I feel kind of helps our friendship though, because you can tell me something's going on. And I'm like completely understand 100% because it's been in my life.
Hmm.
Even though I still have not been diagnosed, it's been in my life my whole
Yeah.
life.
Exactly.
I've had Crohn's around me
Hmm.
forever, and it's a rough one.
Yeah, and like that's why like it's important. Like we like I mean, when I was a kid, when I was first diagnosed, there was it was offered. So
Hmm.
there was a support group at the hospital for pediatric patients, like to to talk, and I probably should have gone.
Yeah.
My parents kind of left that up to me, and my response was no, because I favored normalcy basically. I wanted to be
Hmm.
act as if so much of my like as little of my life was changing as possible despite the fact, and I'm certain now that like it's probably a requirement when you're diagnosed, like you have to go to these, like if
Yeah.
it's not I'd be surprised. And I probably could have benefited from it because this kind of community is important, just so because
Yep.
being diagnosed with a chronic illness is so isolating.
Extremely.
Even if you've got the support group, and that's why representation of these kinds of things is important in media,
Hmm.
because you see yourself in these things and it helps you feel less alone. You can see a character who is going through something and you feel like someone understands you, because like and like in my case I was diagnosed with a chronic illness that only one other member of my family had, and it's
Mm.
not a member that I'm particularly close to. He and I would still talk about it as I was like getting older and could like really talk about my experience.
Yeah.
But like when I was first diagnosed, like it's a case of like no one understood what was going on. I was in pain all the time. I was trying to explain how I was feeling, but ultimately everything in my life was filtered through the experience of I need to take medication to get better.
Hmm.
And but I was trying to explain how that was making me feel and all these other things, and it's so isolating for anybody, an adult, a kid,
Yeah.
whatever. That's why like it's good to have these kinds of communities of like you and I, just happens it just happenstance that we've experienced with the same kind of chronic illness, or like there's a lot of online groups or just
Yeah.
people. It's the joke of like the Spoonie community that like we just accidentally find each other.
We really do, because it is funny. Like I am going through my first colonoscopy soon, ever at the age of 30, and we've been discussing for weeks now all the different prep and all the things I'm gonna have to do, and it's nice knowing, because if I try to talk to some people about this, it's just like, oh yeah, it sucks, and it kind of ends at that, and
Hmm.
I'm like, no, I need some camaraderie, that
Camaraderie.
word that I camaraderie here. Thank you, because this is terrifying.
And like I was able to like
It's
critique, and
terrifying.
I was able to critique the prep instructions they gave you.
You did. You critiqued the gastro whatever. I can never
The
say
gastroenterologist.
thank you. It's a
You
word that is hard.
Here's the thing is even though technically it's GE, the technical
Yeah.
the abbreviated term for that doctor is the GI.
Yes, the GI. I tend to say that a lot, but I'm leading up to that, and if I get this diagnosis, like I have no idea what it's going to change in my life, and it's a hard
It
process
is.
going through it.
It is a hard process just to figure it out and to
And like you
maintain
said,
it.
we have no representation.
Of this one, not really. No, there's, I believe, I never actually read it because I remember I just forgot when it came out. I just forgot about it when it came out. But I'm trying to look at the author of How to Excavate a Heart.
Okay.
she wrote a book that was about a little boy, and I think it's a little boy, or it's a child character in middle school that gets diagnosed with Crohn's disease. I have to look that
Oh
I
my.
I let me look that book up right now because I
Okay.
don't remember.
Which books have great representation, I feel.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's that's actually the first time I saw my own diagnosis, or like my own things I was dealing with, was in a book. I was diagnosed with the super I said the word earlier,
you did.
supraventricular tachycardia, which all that that really is like a piece of my heart. Like the electrical connections grew on an extra piece, and the electrical connection in the heart would just spark at certain times
Hmm.
and cause my body to like cause my heart to beat faster. They did something called a cardiac ablation, where they went in and actually like burnt that portion of my heart. But I had never seen anything like that until I read a nonfiction book about white supremacy.
Mm.
It's called White Supremacy is All Around. It's by Dr. Akila Cadet. I've messaged with her before, and she gave me good lucks on my like for my ablation and all that. Because the ablation's only like 80 something percent like
Hmm.
able to keep. So even though I'm doing okay right now, my energy levels are still different. My blood's pumping normal finally for the first
Hmm.
time in my life, but like that doesn't mean it'll stick.
Yeah.
And so and
Yeah.
now I'm looking for more diagnosis for other
All the
things.
diagnoses.
All of
I
them.
did find the book I was looking
What is
for.
it?
So the book is called "The Year My Life Went Down the Toilet" by Jake Maya Arlo.
Oh
It's this
my.
the book is about a girl. She's 12 years old, so I'll read the beginning of the synopsis.
Okay.
It's a middle grade novel.
That
Uh,
title though.
yeah. 12-year-old Al Schneider is too scared to talk about the two biggest things in her life. One, her stomach hurts all the time and she has no idea why. And two, she almost definitely 100% sure she likes girls. So it's both about her diet, her getting it like it in the description mentions the colonoscopy and she gets the answer that she has Crohn's disease. So it's both about her being diagnosed with Crohn's disease and realizing she's a lesbian.
Oh, you need to read this
I need
book.
to read this book.
Oh my god. That'll be a very healing experience for you, I feel.
Honestly, I think so. I'm gonna read this, and then if you do ultimately get diagnosed with Crohn's disease, this might be a good book for your daughter.
We may have to buddy read this.
I think so.
We may have to buddy read this middle grade book.
I am now seeing if it's available at any of the libraries we have.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Good. Thanks to Lauren. I have like 4 library cards on my
Yet,
Libby.
truthfully, if you need advice on how to get multiple library cards, I'm your person. I have to use. That's how I choose to use my library science degree, is making sure people have the most library cards humanly possible.
As one should.
I have 7.
I only have the 4, but I'll try and get more eventually. I think it's because of where you are, though. You're
Mm-hmm.
able to get more than I can because
Yeah,
where I'm located. Your location does matter to get for
it
some of them.
does. Okay, looks like I have access to both the audiobook and the ebook, and it
I'm gonna
looks
look at.
like one of the libraries we share has the ebook,
Ooh,
and it
sweet.
also has so one of the libraries we share has the audiobook and the ebook, but it only has one copy, so I have to borrow it from another if we can't borrow
So
it at
we
the
have to
same
make sure
time.
it's not from the same library when we
Basically,
do
we have to make
this.
sure that like you get it from Harris County, I get it from Queens.
That's fair.
We can do that.
But no, that sounds like because like I've always had, I would call them digestive issues.
Yes.
But I've always like watched what I've eaten the best I can. If something starts affecting me differently, I avoid it and I move on to something different.
Mm-hmm.
I've given up alcohol before in my life because alcohol is very rough on me.
Yeah.
Um,
Nope. Yeah.
it's just reaching a point that my body doesn't tolerate anything anymore. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't seem to matter what I eat. It's just like, no, we hate you. So, which is like, I think that's what I appreciate with our friendship too. Though I'd be like, hey, this is going on. I'm not going to say what it is because, like we've said, Crohn's is not a flashy disease.
No, it's not.
It is digestive. And it's just like, oh yeah, that really sucks. I hate when that happens. It's like nice knowing it happens to somebody else
Yeah,
because when
exactly.
you're in that pain and you're stuck like that, you're
Mm-hmm.
just like, why? Just make it stop.
Mm-hmm.
Is all you can really think.
Exactly.
And that's what leads us to TV.
So also why we watch a lot of television, because
It
when
is.
you're sick and when you're in pain and you can't do a whole lot, you're Lauren and you watch 17 episodes of Once Upon a Time in 4 days.
Yes.
A
And
Crohn's
I
flare
like
up is why I started watching Once Upon a Time.
and that's I don't think the like my mental illness well no, maybe my mental illness is probably what led me to Bob's. I watched it
Possibly.
through my divorce.
Yeah, mine was it was spring break and I was like in between medications, so my energy was just
Oof.
shot because
Yeah.
with the levels of the Crohn's meds, what they have you on, like especially back then, pediatric. There was a content. I was gonna apologize. But there was a content warning before this episode, so if you're still listening,
Yeah, no, we put a content
if you're still
warning.
listening, that's on you.
Pretty
Like,
much.
pretty much, yeah. So like for pediatric patients, a lot of the medications that are available now were not always available for pediatric patients in the
Yes.
2010s. And if they were available, you had to go through a certain level of medications before you could get to the stuff that's now pretty widely available. So I had to like basically go on medications, have them not work before I could go on something else. So I was in the in between stage, like while we were figuring out what to do next, and my energy levels were not good. So I basically lied in bed for a week and watched Once Upon a Time on Hulu.
But it's so healing to be able to do that because
Hmm.
I like to read. We both like to read a lot. We both watch a
Yeah,
lot of TV and movies. It's
and that
just
was
who we
definitely
are.
escapism.
It's escapism. But there are days even that like the mental illness or like whatever pain I'm in or whatever I'm dealing with, because I deal with other things that I can get into, but it's like a laundry list now. I
Yeah,
feel like I'm collecting chronic illnesses as I did with mental illnesses for a while.
gotta catch 'em all, Pokemon.
Because like we've gone from okay, I've got a form of tachycardia. Let's go figure out if I have Crohn's. Oh, now we got to figure out if I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. What can I collect next? Like it's
But it really is like the YouTuber that I was telling you about,
yes, I
Jessica
want to
Kelgren
listen,
Fozard.
watch her stuff.
I love her. She's a disabled YouTuber. She's I don't know if she's completely deaf. I have no idea anymore.
Hmm.
But she wasn't always deaf. She wasn't born deaf.
Like hard of hearing.
She developed hearing loss because of most likely because of her connective tissue disorders.
Oh
She was
wait,
miss
you can
she
lose
was
your
miss
hearing because of that.
sometimes there's a connection between that. Yeah, sometimes depending on what type you have. Um,
Sorry, Ehlers-Danlos is a connective tissue
it is. Here's
disorder,
the thing.
and my brain just went, wait a minute.
Don't be scared of what I'm about to say.
Okay, I'll try not to.
They're not sure what caused her hearing loss. It's just
Okay.
kind of is. That's the idea. She was originally diagnosed with mixed connective tissue disorder, which I don't
Okay.
exactly know what the difference is there. She went to a different rheumatologist later in life and then was diagnosed with EDS.
Oh, fun.
So there's that. She also had or has POTS. I don't know if that
Working on that one too.
may have been a misdiagnosis. I don't know. She also has hereditary neuropathy with something palsies. It's
Gotcha.
basically her nerve is missing, like the coating around your nerves basically
Ooh.
has like holes in them basically. So basically she can just sometimes temporarily the nerves kind of die and her limbs sometimes paralyze for temporarily. It's a strange, but she's got that. Pretty sure she's also ADHD.
Yep,
She's
got
also
that.
gay.
Got that too.
she's got the gay. But I've been watching her channel like since I was in college, like on and off. I used to watch it
Yeah.
more regularly, but like I love watching like the new videos like with her wife and her son, and it's she also does queer history really well. The way I just
Ooh.
love the way she talks.
I'll have
She
to look.
explains things.
I'll look into it and definitely start
Yeah,
watching.
she just explains things
And
so
everybody
well.
who
But
listens, please.
yes, links will be in show notes.
Yes.
Go to Jessica Kelgren Fozard's channel because she's a delightful person to watch. But she explains things so well. But she's also like she's just collecting all of the
It's like, what can I get next?
all of the illnesses.
So with the representation, we know why representation matters. We want to see ourselves, and
Yeah.
like we've seen lots of depression. I feel in media.
Yeah, we see a lot of that.
Which
and some of it's good, some of it's bad.
Yeah, like oddly, one that I liked that hit me too much was what was that weird? It was like the puberty cartoon with Nick Kroll and I think Mulaney was in it.
Oh, Big Mouth.
Big Mouth, the depression cat in that.
That's
Dude.
Yeah, that's a weird show though.
It's a very weird show. I remember, but like that was like only in season 2. I stopped watching it as it got weirder and weirder. But I remember that representation, them showing like the depression cat and how it truly feels. I was like, I should not be seen by a cartoon, but here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really was like she couldn't get up, and that's how depression feels.
Yeah.
But like that, and we're gonna talk about Ted Lasso because I
Yes.
fucking love Ted Lasso, and they have great representation within that.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot tell you any time I think I've seen good representation for like depression and anxiety within media.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks.
Yeah.
Because we put the trigger warning on this already, but it really sucks when the depression representation is, oh, they killed themselves.
Yeah.
Like, that happens a lot.
It happens very frequently. I mean, not that it definitely happens,
Yeah, it
but
definitely
there are people
happens,
that
but, like, I don't want that to be the only representation we get.
exactly, because it's important to show that you can work through it.
Exactly.
Not that all chronic illness representation should be like aspirational of like, oh, you can get through it. It's gonna it's like which
Yes.
shouldn't be all that, but there's a level of like there's a balance
Mhm.
that needs to be struck, and I think Ted Lasso, especially with the way they handled how he dealt with his anxiety attacks and him going
Yep.
to therapy for the first time and all of that will take a second time if you count the couples counseling, um,
Yeah.
which you may or may not want to count, but it did give us
They
the
showed us
Oklahoma line, which was hilarious.
yeah, they gave us a real look at what a panic attack feels like.
Yeah.
And how you have to how you feel like you need to hide it because he said he had to run to the bathroom. Like, you
Hmm.
feel like you have to hide that you have this issue, that you're struggling because you're gonna be embarrassed, people are gonna think of you differently, when in reality, there's a lot of us.
Hmm.
This is far more common than we, I think, are led to believe.
Yeah. No,
Like,
it definitely is. Like
so
I
much.
looking back on it, I didn't realize that was what was happening at first, but like basically every semester of college during finals week I had a panic attack.
Oof, they're rough.
And like a few times it got so bad that like I didn't go to college too far from
Mhm.
home, but there were times where it got so bad that I needed my parents to come get me.
Oh my.
I needed to be because it almost always happened. It was just timing wise. During finals week, my roommate would almost always be done with finals sooner than me, so I was like still and because I was my finals mostly were essays, but still it was a
Mhm.
lot of essays, and I needed a balance of essays and actual exams because I was an English and education major, so mine were mostly essays. But it got to the point where I was by myself. Most of my friends were gone for the semester
Mhm.
already. I just the it was just everything was weighing down on me at that point that I was finished that it and like I put a lot of pressure on myself. That was a lot of pressure that I put on myself. It wasn't like
Mhm.
necessarily external pressure from my parents or from school or whatever. But I knew that being alone was a bad idea.
Yeah. I'm glad that you were still, like, close enough with your parents, though, to be able to have that for yourself, though, because it's very
Yeah.
important to have someone there for you if it's
Hmm.
available. And if you
Yeah.
don't, that's why the community is as important as it
Exactly.
is, because
Hmm.
then you have your community.
Hmm.
So we talk about how Ted Lasso has good representation. They showed great representation with panic attacks, how it is to be going into therapy, and how it's actually not as scary as we believe it to be.
Hmm.
You told me that you have some mixed representation on Grey's Anatomy. I've watched plenty of Grey's Anatomy, but also that is a very, very long show with
Hmm.
lots in it. My memory around it is not exactly the best.
Hmm.
I also watched a lot of it pregnant, which messes with your memory. I will stand
Yeah.
by this. It messes with your memory. There are things I don't remember while I was pregnant. So I'm really curious what you mean by mixed representation.
I mean, the mixed representation is that like a lot of times what they'll get right is the feelings.
Mhm.
Is like what I said before about kind of like a lot of like the isolation. Like the one like
Yeah.
I think I can remember a lot was the episode that Mae Whitman was in. Her character was like there was a spine issue. She was like bent at 90 degrees basically. Like
Oh,
she
I
couldn't
remember that.
sit up straight. And she went on this like rant about like how no one understands what this is like. Like you can claim to be sympathetic all you want, but at the end of the day, you truthfully have no idea what it's like to be this physically like you can't you can't be a real person basically.
Yeah.
And like I would say a lot of the good of what they got was the feelings. It was a
Mhm.
lot of like especially with people with how it feels to like have an issue that you can't diagnose because there's like all these criteria and these doctors
Yeah.
trying to do all these things and like they jump to conclusions all this other stuff. A lot of what they got right was the feelings of isolation, of not knowing, of trying to get a doctor to understand what you're saying, trying to get a doctor to actually look at you and actually look at your symptoms. Like
Spend
it's
more than
that
5 minutes with you.
like exactly like to actually like see what all of this is doing together. That's the thing I think they do really well. What they don't do so well, I would say, and I get a lot of this from my medical professional girlfriend,
Mhm.
is the medical stuff.
We
Because
love her.
unfortunately, well, because it's a medical drama and it's a lot of the storytelling structure. Like, yes, they do have doctors and scientific professionals that help them get a lot of the stuff right, but it's the fact of like most of the conditions that they end up with on in these episodes that are flashy are not things that can get solved within a week. Like a
No.
lot of these things, it's sped up timelines, it's an accurate use of hospital facilities, everything. Anytime Emily sees someone like with a vent on screen, she's like, "That is a terrible." It's like that person was ventilated so badly. I'm like, well, because the tube is just in their mouth. That's why it looks like it's a bad vent. It's because it's not
Or
actually in.
doctors doing the scans.
Like it's not actually in their trachea.
Like, the amount of times you
Like
see doctors sitting there doing the scans, and I'm like, "That's not how that works."
yeah, like when they do an MRI and the MRI doesn't make any sound, I'm like, that's you sit on a throne of lies. Like MRIs are massively loud.
Exactly.
For those who did not know, MRIs are very loud
Like,
for no I don't know what it does.
one of the times I ended up in the hospital for a, ovarian cyst problem, because that's another one of my lovely list things is I deal with
Mhm.
ovarian cysts, which are extremely painful. Don't ever
Yeah.
let a male doctor tell you that it's just like having period cramps. No, I felt like I
No,
was
it's not.
dying. The
Also,
last
fun fact,
Yeah.
period cramps are not normal. You shouldn't actually have them.
And, like, maybe they shouldn't just throw birth control at that either, but that's a
Yeah.
whole 'nother thing.
That's a rant for
Uh,
another day.
exactly. But I remember the last scan I got dropped off for, they literally, like, put me in a wheelchair, dropped me off at this one section, said, "Oh, they'll come get you in a second," and left me there. Like, that's what? "You'll be fine."
Fine.
After they had just given me, like, a shot of morphine, and I'm like, "Oh,
Mhm.
okay." That's the day I found out that, packets of, like, alcohol that they keep, like the
Mhm.
if you sniff that, it's like smelling salts and it helps with nausea, because the morphine made me so nauseous, I was
Oh.
about to puke. I've never seen a nurse move so fast. She ripped, like, 3 packets open and stuffed it under my nose to keep me from
Mm.
puking, 'cause, they were
Wow.
trying to stand me up.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So, it was a great time.
Mhm. Mm.
But yeah, fun fact, those help with nausea.
Good to know.
Good to know. Oh man. But yeah, yeah, they're definitely not super accurate in Grey's
No.
Anatomy.
Not at all. I mean, it's funny to watch Emily get mad at that stuff, but it's like when you see like it's like I said, it's the good is the feelings, the bad is the facts.
Yeah.
Which like it is fiction at the end of the day. It's they're not real doctors. These aren't real sick people. Like they're doing something. They're telling a story. Ultimately, they're telling a story and they're moving the characters forward through whatever thing is
Mhm.
happening that week. It's not common that you have like these undiagnosable people that you spend 10 minutes with them. Oh, I know exactly what's wrong and how to fix it.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't happen in real life
No, you
like
got to get
as
the doctor
often.
to listen first.
That's the key, is you really got to get the doctor to actually listen to you first, because I like I said before, the pediatrician now like was so insistent that there was nothing wrong with me. Like, good job. Like I had my dentist one time. I just, after they did a filling, I got an infection. I was in a lot of pain. And I guess the infection wasn't big enough to show up on the X-ray. I guess I have
Oh
no
man.
idea, because I went. It was 2 weeks later. I went back, and because I was still in a lot of pain, and he was insisting that it was just slow healing, and my dad was there for something else. Like that's why I went back, because he was already going. So he's like, just take her and you can and we'll take a look at it. And he insisted that I was fine. There was nothing wrong with it. And as I was leaving, I was going out the waiting room to wait for my dad. I heard him say to my dad, "Do we think she's just looking for pain meds?"
I've had that
And my
happen
dad
before
and my
too.
dad shut that down. He shut that down real fast, because he knows me. He knows that if I might, because what happens when you grow up with chronic illness and chronic pain, your pain tolerance is really, really
Yep.
high. And he's like, she would not be complaining if it didn't hurt.
Yeah.
But because that dentist didn't believe me, and I kind of just sucked it up and thought maybe I am fine, maybe it is just slow healing. I had a pain in my tooth for over a year,
Oof.
on and off over a year, and basically until my face swelled up and I could barely open my mouth. Not until then did someone believe me. And we went to a dentist that was like, "Wow, yes, this should have been dealt with a long time ago," and I ended up having to have a root canal.
Oof.
But contrarily, that same dentist also caused someone else in my family to need a root canal. That person was male. It got fixed within 2 weeks.
I'm not surprised.
So,
And I think we all have stories like that. Like, because another thing with chronic illness is when you get bad enough, you end up at the emergency room.
yeah.
It's inevitable. Like, if you get bad enough, you
Hmm.
can't just lay there in excruciating pain. And for us, like you just said, we have high pain levels.
Yep.
Like, the amount of pain I will sit in until I seek help is probably unhealthy, but it's because
Hmm.
I've been to that emergency room so much. I don't want them to think I'm there just for pain meds. And I've had
Hmm.
situations where I was in a car accident at like 18, and it caused muscle strain in my back. And it happens about every 3 to 4 years, the strain
Hmm.
hits again. I've talked to other doctors about it before. They're just like, yeah, it's like muscle memory, pretty much.
Hmm.
And if you move the wrong way, do the wrong thing, it can cause more strain.
Mhm.
Every time I need to go see a doctor for it. And I remember one time I ended up at the emergency room because I couldn't walk. It was so bad. And they thought I was trying to get pain meds. But then the last doctor I saw at prom care when it was acting up again, I was like, yeah, can you just help me out? And she's like, do you do steroid shots? I was like, nope, those don't work. She was like, okay, I'm going to give you a muscle relaxer. She was female. I
Mm.
mean, it was a female who helped me.
That's what it is.
I'm like, thank you.
Yeah. Well, like last year and then to be fair, I had a physical manifestation of something was clearly wrong with me because
Yes.
I fell and I pinned basically my big toe
Oh, I
broke my
remember
entire
that. That
fall.
was a funny.
And it was I'm the sassy person at the doctor's office. Sometimes they appreciate it, sometimes they don't. And so my toenail was there was a significant bruise. You could see
Yes.
it. Significant hematoma. So the nurse that did my intake they called me back, she asked me what my pain was on a scale of 1 to 10. And to be fair, if it for my scale, if it had been below a 5, I probably wouldn't have shown up. But
Yeah.
it was already bad on my scale. And I'm like, I know that the toenail trigger warning, toenails. I knew it was gonna fall off.
Yeah.
But if I could do anything to alleviate the pain until that happened, I would just rather them drain it and then it'll fall off eventually.
Yeah.
That's what ended up happening. So I said to the nurse, I went when she asked for my pain my pain scale on a scale of 1 to 10. I said my scale or someone else, my scale or a regular person's, because those are two different numbers. And she went, well, what is it for you? I was like, a 7, but for me that would be, but for someone else it's probably like a 14. She went, okay.
That's accurate. That's so
It's pretty
accurate.
accurate. And then later on, when they were doing everything they had to do, the PAs were doing like the betadine to
Yeah.
make sure everything was sterile before they did what they had to do. So I keep knocking my microphone. And the one PA was doing it, the other one was observing, and he was kind of moving my toe. And she looks at me and she goes, "Oh, she's not wincing. It doesn't hurt." And I went, "Yeah, my pain tolerance is high. Don't use my face as an indicator."
This just reminds me of that thing. I was like, I can't keep my face quiet.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't hurt, but then this was a case of sometimes at doctor's offices, I can't keep my mouth quiet
Yeah.
because after that, when they were doing what they had to do, I heard them go, "This is like one of those procedures that's really satisfying." And I said out loud, and I probably shouldn't have, but I said out loud, "I'm glad it was as good for you as it was for me."
I remember this. Oh my god. Oh.
Like I didn't say it in a mean way. I was just like, "Can we
Yeah.
please just be done already?"
Like, please let me get this over with. I'd like
Just
to
put a
not.
band-aid on, just like attach it to my other toe so it doesn't move in case it is sprained, and let me go home.
Yep. Because like it's very much too like the hospital anxiety you get as a spoonie.
Yeah.
I don't. The amount of times I've been to the one hospital my family tends to go to, and like every time I've been there, I remember being there. My husband hasn't had to go to that hospital a lot. I've been in it
Mhm.
multiple times, had both my children there, all these things. And I remember I remember just saying, no, you can go get something out of the cafeteria. They have the best food out of all the hospitals in the area.
You shouldn't know that.
And my husband's like, how do you know this? And I'm like, you don't want to know, but they have good
Yeah.
food. You're fine. Because they do. They actually have
Yeah,
good
exactly.
food. I was like, it's not like the other hospital where the kitchen's practically a hallway. And he's just like, how do you know this?
It's just what happens. We say all of this to kind of like back to like our original thing of
Yes.
like representation matters, and this is what we're doing. We're showing as ourselves. I mean,
Yes.
there are people that listen to this that I'm certain have some kind of mental illness or chronic illness. That
We
hopefully by listening,
understand.
we understand. So we hope listening to this episode has made you feel seen in any way, whether you
Yes.
share our diagnoses or you have something similar. We hope that we've given the representation we want to see in our own media.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Because we don't see it enough. And there's so much bad rep. Like,
Yeah.
it's rampant within TV and media, which sucks because we're the ones mostly watching your shows.
Exactly. Like the spooning community, like for people that have the time to sit and binge and watch things and be in fandom spaces and overanalyze things
Mm-hmm.
are the people with these chronic illnesses. Like and that's why we like about the cosplay community is that they're
Yes.
so open about all kinds of chronic illness, disability, whatever. One of the best has been hotel cosplayers that I ever saw was she was cosplaying as Loot. She was in a wheelchair, she had her cannula, but she was killing the cosplay
Ooh, that's
and the lip sync.
awesome.
She was, and like I think her partner was Adam behind doing like the hype dance. I'm like, this was one of the best cosplays I'd ever seen.
That is so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
What's probably some of the worst rep you can think that you've seen in TV?
Oof.
I know it's a hard question because there's so many to choose from.
I know. I mean, because I'm trying to think of like a specific Grey's Anatomy episode, but it's not necessarily coming to mind.
Yeah.
Like it's just so rampant because I feel like I would say most of the time that it's handled poorly.
Very poorly. I think one that I enjoyed and didn't hate as much, but I don't know if it was good rep or not, was, I know it's probably not everybody's favorite, but Silver Linings Playbook.
Mm,
When like the two characters who are very obviously, of course, like dealing with their mental illnesses, they're going back and forth about all the different meds they've taken. The
yep.
amount of times I've had that conversation.
Hmm.
But I liked that movie because it showed that even people who tend to seem that they are normal are also dealing with their own mental like
Yeah.
stressors. And like not everybody like there. I don't think there's anybody who's actually normal. I would
Hmm.
like to meet a neurotypical person who has a fully functioning body. If you exist, please present yourself to me because I still have not met one.
I don't think they exist.
I don't think they exist. And it makes it really frustrating because in media you see all these people that are able-bodied and they're moving and they're great and they're doing like they're normal, so to
Hmm.
speak, and I don't think that exists.
I don't think so either. Everyone has something.
Something. But like and like they do enough in TV and media of like, oh, this person's dealing with grief, this person's dealing with their heart's been broken or this or that. And like, yeah, that's normal everyday emotions that we all
Hmm.
deal with, but we all also deal with them differently depending on how many spoons we have.
Exactly.
My divorce put me on my butt. Like I was on my butt for a little while and then I got so
Hmm.
angry I went back to work. But I remember watching a lot of Bob's Burgers
Yep.
going through my divorce, and it's a grieving process when you're going through something like that. And so I'm just kind
Hmm.
of like I I need I need someone out there that's got a laundry list and not just like, oh, I have this and then that's it, because we're
Yeah.
definitely both proof of like, no, there's like multiple things going on. I need all the things. Where can I get them?
Exactly.
But it doesn't exist,
No, it doesn't, unfortunately.
unfortunately. But that's why we're all here together doing this now.
That's why we hope we've cultivated this space where you can, like, I think the TikTok that I
Yes.
posted today, that was no POV. You found your ideal podcast co-host where you can just be weirdos together in a nice safe space and input up about your favorite
Yeah.
TV shows, because like you and I, we watch TV very similarly, different
Yep.
types of shows, but we watch TV very similarly. And it's just we've created a space that's safe for us where we can be the representation that we want, which I think is an important thing. I think about that a lot, and like in the books that I write, like not
Yes.
chronic illness. I haven't written so much chronic illness rep, but like with queer rep and stuff like that. Like I'm writing the characters and the stories that maybe not as a kid, but like that
Yeah.
I early in my identity journey. Let's go with
Hmm.
that. That the younger version of me being still over 18 needed to have at that time, and it's important.
Yeah.
It's like that's the thing is like, and now that we know enough about ourselves, we can be that rep that we needed.
I see that too, because like with the sexuality, that's also representation that we also need. And a lot of sapphic media gets canceled very quickly. But
Yes, it
like
does.
as especially during we're filming this we're recording this during Pride Month, and for me it's very important because we're having another issue of our bisexual people, are their partners welcome if they're
Hmm.
male, like or
Yeah.
by women, by men, whatever. And I'm just like, I most of pretty much everything I'm writing right now has a sapphic main character because I'm married to my husband. I love my
Hmm.
husband. I'm
Hmm.
still bisexual. It
Yeah. Yes, you
doesn't
are.
change anything about me, so I'm feeling my own representation within what I write as well,
Hmm.
because bi erasure is it's a bitch. It
Yes, it
happens a
is.
lot.
Hmm.
So we just want to be. I like that we're doing this though because we do. We want to be the representation that we don't get
Yeah.
very much so. So if you feel
Exactly.
seen in this, think I'm happy.
We're happy you're here,
We're happy you're here. It's
especially if you made it to the end of this episode.
very much so because it's a lot of us ranting, but I feel like if I were listening to something like this, I would feel very like seen because
Yeah.
these are the situations that we've been in, or
Hmm.
like for both of us, quite a bit of our lives.
Exactly.
Whew.
It's let us share of our lifetime of experience.
It's a lot of experience.
Gather round the Snapchat children.
Oh my god.
I'll tell you the tale of the landline. Thank you all for listening. Join us next time back at our regularly scheduled time to talk more about all things Once Upon a Time and Bob's Burgers. Don't forget to like, rate, and follow the podcast wherever you listen so you can be notified every time we publish a new episode. Follow us at OBDYK_pod on Instagram and TikTok. And if you'd like to join our book club, you can find the link with more details in our show notes.
This has been an episode of Okay, But Did You Know? A TV and media podcast. It was hosted by Katie and Lauren and edited by Katie.